Babthorpe, which is now called Lilliput. Today we are going to be baking Anzac biscuits, and before I start, this is a picture of me when just as I left Babthorpe, because I'm not in my uniform since this is just when I was moving to America for 3 years. Also, my grandpa, which I call Papa, he was in the Navy and he fought in the Korean War, and here's a picture of him in his uniform. Before we start with the ingredients, I'm going to turn on the oven, but if you're a bit young, I'd advise that you ask your parents to help you just in case you burn yourself. So, there we go. Make sure you wash your hands before you start because you don't want any germs getting onto the food that you're eating. So now that the oven's preheating, we're going to start with the ingredients. The first ingredient is flour, just plain flour, and you want to use a sifter, which is one of these little things that grind up the big chunky bits of the flour so it's very fine. So you want to get a 1 cup measuring, so a full cup, and I'd advise you also tip it in over your bowl, because then it won't, if it spills in, then that's just a little extra flour and it's not a problem. See, I spilled a little in there. This is one of the things that we would do when we were at Babthorpe, is sifting, and it's one of my favourite things to do when I was younger, and I'd bake with my mum or my family because it was the easiest thing to do. So, of course, again, you tip it over the bowl, so in case any comes out, it goes into the bowl, and then you just sift it as you tip it in. So then you want to pour your ingredients into your cups ready. So we're going to start with 1 cup, full cup of, I think it's just instant oats, and you can just find these at the grocery store. So you want to go and tip these in. And there you go. Then the next ingredient you want to add is 3/4 of brown sugar, or the last one of these is 1/2 cup of, what's it called? It's coconut, but desiccated coconut, which you can also just find in the grocery store, and tip that in.
This is Emma's sister Lauren, and she was also an old scholar, but she actually went to Jescott. Say hi, Lauren.
Hi. So a spoon is the best way to mix all these ingredients together. You don't have to mix it too much because we still have all the other ingredients, but just to mix them together nicely so that it's not all just like one big clump. Since when I tipped the brown sugar in, it was just a big cylinder in the shape of the cup, the measuring cup. So you want to try and get all these chunky bits chopped up, since we don't want chunky bits in the mixture. And then should be good for mixing these for now. So now we're going to add in the butter, and we want 125 grams of it. So this butter has all of these little markings that say 50 grams. So because we want 125, we'd add 50 and 50, which is 100. And then you wouldn't add another 50, but you'd half it to make it 25. So I already made a little marking right there, just so I know where to chop. And you just want to cut that. Might take a little bit of pressure. Be a bit careful when doing this. Maybe get a parent again if you're using a big knife. Oop, there we go. And then you think we go like that. Yep. Ugh, I think I got it. And it might be a little difficult to separate. Oop, there we go. And if you need a measuring, if you want to be precise, it doesn't matter if you don't have them, but if you do have a scale handy, you can put it on the scale. Whoop. There we go. Oh, I've got to wait for it to go to 0. 123. So that's reasonably close, and I don't think I'd have to add too much more, or I don't have to add any more because I'm only 2 grams off. So we peel off this. So once you've unpeeled all the butter, you want to put it in. Is that correct? All right. And it might be a little difficult. Don't be afraid to get your hands a bit dirty because that's going to happen. So then you're going to melt the butter. So we'll put it on the small stove since we don't need it too heated up. Maybe we can move that in a bit more to the center. So you want to turn on your stove top. There we go. That should be about right. So if you want to come over here, you can see it's melting. So just move it around a bit. So then we want to take it off the flame for a little bit so then we can add the other ingredients. So now you want to warm up some of the water and the golden syrup into the butter. So just pour it over the top, just in case. That's about it. So this is golden syrup, and at the moment it might be a little hard to find in the supermarket, but so now you want to turn your stovetop back on and turn it down again so it doesn't get burnt, and keep stirring it because we need to mix the water and the golden syrup in, since some of the golden syrup can be stuck at the bottom and you want to make sure it's not all just in one big clump and that it's all in the butter. So just keep stirring. So it's boiling now and it's getting very bubbly. So now we want to add our bicarb soda. You have to add half a teaspoon, but we have one that gives you half a teaspoon accurately because too much bicarb soda can actually ruin your biscuits. So it's fine if you don't have one of these, just try to do half a teaspoon accurately, but we want to be extra accurate. So after we add this in, it's going to froth up. All right, here we go. Thank you. All right, let's just... So there it is, and we start mixing. It's all frothy. And we're going to just keep mixing this. Kind of looks like the top of coffee, you know, when you add the creamer. So now we add the butter and the golden syrup and water mixture into our dried ingredients. Fizzes up a little bit, makes a little sizzly sound. Just going to put... It smells, this mixture is where the Anzac Biscuit smell comes from. So it smells just like Anzac Biscuits, and I think that's the mix of the golden syrup and the butter, because the golden syrup has a specific smell, and that's where you get your Anzac Biscuit smell. So we're going to put this over here, and because it's hot, you don't want to put it on any sort of wood, I think, and nothing that could burn it, basically. So then you want to be careful, because this is hot. And when you're pouring your hot ingredients in, I get a parent to do it for you if you're young, because you don't want to burn yourself. So you want to keep mixing, keep smelling more like Anzac Biscuits. Keep mixing your mixture all together, and by the time you're done, all of it should be this kind of like sticky brown mixture. Like there shouldn't be flour left, I don't think, since you don't want that. And you shouldn't have any oats that haven't had the mixture, the wet ingredients added to it. So you keep mixing it. It's a sticky texture because of the syrup. So this is what your finished mixture should look like. If you have any excess of this stuff, you probably want to grab a little spoon like this and just scoop it off so you don't waste any. Then we're going to start rolling them up into the bowls to add onto our trays, but just let it, if you've just recently done it and you already had the baking trays ready or something and you basically just finished mixing it, I would leave it for like maybe 3 minutes just to let it cool down in case you touch it and it's still hot from the wet ingredients. So now we want to put some baking paper down onto trays. So now to put it on the baking tray, you want to get, this is a dessert spoon, but I don't think it really matters if it's a tablespoon or dessert spoon. Just get a reasonably good sized spoon and try and get enough mixture that would be on the spoon. Now, it's a bit crumbly, I've realized, so it might fall apart a little bit and you might have to add a little bit more. And you want to squeeze or try and roll them into little balls. It's very difficult. I need to keep making sure it's solid enough. Sometimes if the butter's mainly there to make sure it sticks together. So sometimes if you just had, because we had 2 grams under of butter, there's a chance you could have possibly changed it. So you just want to place them down. You don't push them down like a normal cookie would because of the crumbliness. And the recipe we're using says 6 on a tray, but because they're a bit small, since they're only supposed to be walnut size, they should be a little bit more. Oh, hello Michaela. My cat's just come to see what I'm doing in the kitchen. Probably looking for food, but you can't eat these. These are cookies, Michaela, not cat food. So you want to just keep placing, make sure they're a little bit apart because they can expand and you don't want them connected because that wouldn't be very good if you had 2 cookies connected. And continue doing this. As you can see, it's a little hard. This is the bit where you have to be a bit patient because of the crumbliness. I was struggling a little bit to mold the biscuits into balls because they were crumbling really easily, so I added 10 more grams of butter to make the mixture a little bit wetter and easier to stick together, making it 133 grams of butter. Still a little crumbly, but easier to mold. So definitely add a bit more butter, possibly 10 grams, just so you know that it can stick easily so it won't crumble apart every time you put it on the baking tray. Because this video is aimed for kids, I will once again say, with the oven, either ask a parent, or if you're older, you know, just be careful. But if you're young, ask a parent to help you, because you want to open the oven first and then put your biscuits in. But the hot air that comes out of the oven can also, like, damage, you know, it can hurt you, it can burn you, all of that. So I'm going to keep my face away from the oven as I open it, because I can already feel it's really hot, and if you put the camera on me you can see my hair is blowing out very lightly, but still it's dangerous. So I put gloves on. Oh, be a bit careful, just because I don't want to burn myself when putting it in. So there's our first one. And you don't want to put the 2 trays in separately, because that could be a bit of a waste of power when you can just cook them at the same time. So I'm going to put this one is on kneel down. Trying to stay away, keep my face away from the oven at all times if I can. I can feel the heat. And then we're just going to shut it and let it cook.
It's about 20 minutes.
For 20 minutes, and if they're still not cooked, maybe wait another 5 minutes and then they should be good.
So the best way to check to see if they're cooked is to look underneath with a spatula, and we can show you that when the time is due, to check if they're actually cooked.
With Anzac biscuits, you should know they're cooked by once they're solid, completely solid, because you don't want them crumbly or wet. And make sure that they're like a solid brownie sort of colour. So with other cookies you would look for golden brown, but because Anzac biscuits are already kind of a dark brown, you would want them to be like a darker brown colour, and that's when you know that they are cooked. So you want to be squashing all of the cookies down if you haven't squashed them down properly, because then they will be cooked on the outside but not on the inside, and it's best to do it after they've gone in the oven.
So we realised we probably should have flattened them a little bit before we put them in, but that's okay.
They're going to have these little spatula
They'll have little spatula marks, but they'll taste great.
So while we're waiting for our biscuits to bake, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the history of Anzac biscuits and why they have to do with Remembrance Day and Anzac Day. So the biscuits were eaten in World War I because they were the only biscuits that soldiers and other staff could take, since they lasted a long time without rotting or getting moldy or just going off. But because the cookies were... Oh, I keep saying cookies.
That's all right, keep going. Emma lived in America for 3 years and she cannot get the word cookie out of her head, even though I keep reminding her. So keep going,
cookie.
keep going. So what are we looking at? We're looking at some pictures now of them.
So these are some of the cookies.
So this is the original Anzac biscuit that they took, that they used to have, the soldiers used to have. So they're very different to the picture of the Anzac biscuits that we have now with that lovely golden tasty flavour. But they were excellent because they were something that didn't go off, and some of the soldiers used to crush them up and make porridge out of them. That's how hard they were. So we're very lucky now that we've got this new, nice, lovely recipe that we can all enjoy.
So as you can tell, these biscuits look a bit less tasty than these yummy golden ones we have because they didn't have as much good quality ingredients as the modern day has now, since they were used in World War I. Now, these biscuits belong as a tradition on Anzac Day and Remembrance Day. Now, these 2 days are about, the Remembrance Day is a whole world, like, tradition where we just think and be grateful about the soldiers and all the nurses and doctors and all the other staff and anyone that supported our soldiers in world wars and what they did for our countries and our world. So, this little wreath here has poppies all over it, and the poppies are an also representation, symbolism of Remembrance Day. And I made this when I was in, doesn't say, I think it was year 2 or year 3, but I think that it's great that they made us do things like this when we were so young, because no matter how young you are, even if you're a reception, it's still really good to know about it, and because you should be grateful, and there's a specific day for it, but you should be thankful every day for what they did for our country. So it's really nice that our teachers helped us make this, and we've done a few excursions over it as well. Our biscuits, they're starting to look really good and they're starting to look cooked, as you can see here. And I think they should be ready pretty soon. I might open the oven, but I'll stand back. Here, Mum can take that for me. So look at them, they look very yummy. So it's been about 20 minutes, so I'm now going to turn off the oven so that it's not too hot and it can cool down a bit. But still wear gloves or get parental help, because again, it's going to be really hot, and whatever you do, you don't want to touch this thing. So step back. You want to scooch a bit forward. I'm just on my knees because I find it more safe than bending over. Alright, so then you want to put it, avoid the door up here so it doesn't go in your nice bench or your counter. I'm going to get the second one. This one's a bit tricky. Grab it by the edges if you can, but be very gentle, because we both know that these cookies can be very crumbly. That's when I was trying to roll them up. So depending, they can be any size. Ours are a little small, but I think that's good because then you don't eat too much of them, you know. And you want to grab your spatula now. So just put your gloves down, grab your spatula, just the metal one. I don't think plastic, because they can melt if they're near too hot. So be very careful. These are crumbly cookies. Just want to look underneath. Yep, that's a nice golden brown. Check this one. Again, very careful. And if you want to get maybe a shot underneath so you can see what colour they should be.
A bit hard to see, I think.
Yeah.
There we are.
There. So they should be about that colour. It can really vary. Just make sure that they're nicely solid. You can see some spatula marks in some of them. It fits perfectly. So I don't do too much baking, but I've been trying to do it a lot recently while in my house. And I think that some things I've learnt from this recipe. And the recipe was really dry. So I would recommend either finding another recipe next time, or just like I did today, adding some more butter, because they didn't exactly flatten out properly either, and I had to let them bake just a little bit before I could flatten them down, or else they just crumbled to pieces. And that...
And are you pretty happy with how they've turned out now, though?
I think they're pretty good. I don't know.
Yeah.
It just took me a second. Hopefully they taste good, but I will not eat them now because they're supposed to be cooling down, or else I'll burn my tongue, which will not be very pleasant.
So it's a little bit like a science experiment, that sometimes when you do things, they don't always go exactly how you like, and you have to sort of tweak a little bit just to make sure that you get the recipe to work how you want it to.
And after you finish letting them cool down, I'd put them in an airtight container very softly because they can crumble, or just in case you want to put them somewhere and store them, because do not eat them all at once or else you might feel a little bit sick in your tummy. And if you're just going to eat them straight away with your whole family and there's not that many of them, go ahead and just leave them out. But put them in an airtight container, like a Tupperware container you used to eat lunch. Thank you for listening and watching this video, and I hope that you can possibly make some Anzac biscuits soon or find some time to do it. It's very fun to do it with a family member, but I hope you guys can possibly make some biscuits in your own time as well, because I think it was pretty fun to do it, and it's a great opportunity to learn something new.
And hi, my name's Cath, and some of you will know me and some of you won't. And I'm Emma's mum, and I'm an educator at Jescott. So I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial with Emma. She's really loved doing it. See you later. Hi, just to follow up on our yesterday's biscuit making, here I am at Jescott Preschool. Just wanting to let you know that the biscuits were absolutely fabulous, and if you did find them a little bit dry, just add a little bit of butter and then they will be absolutely awesome. So that recipe was a good one to use. Bye everybody.
Measuring, so a full cup, and oh, this isn't gonna work, isn't it? Alright, I'm gonna have to do it like this. I just realized I don't have a spoon. I'm gonna turn on your stovetop.
Wrong one, Emma.
Oh, is it the wrong one? Which one?
Yep. Go across.
That
No.
one. No.
Yep, that's it.
There we go. Oh.
Click it, turn it, hold it, release it.
Okay,
Now
so
turn
that's
it
really
down.
high, and we only want to turn it down a little bit because we don't want the butter to burn. Oops, I just turned the whole thing off.
Go again.
Sometimes I'm a bit bad at this. It takes a few shots for me. So now you want to warm up some of the water and the golden syrup into the butter using a tablespoon. So this is a dessert spoon, and this is a tablespoon.
Show them together.
Because I grabbed the wrong one and then realised.
Okay.
Okay. Where do I put this? I'm just gonna put. Where do I put this? So while we're waiting for the cookie, well, the biscuit. Sorry, can I do that again? So while we're waiting for our cookies, you looking for some food? Can't have any biscuit. You know that, right? Hi, Bush. Hi. You want to look at the camera? So while we're baking, my little cat, Michaela, decided to come and look what we were doing. She probably wants some biscuits because this one loves food so much. Well, and my stomach's really growling, so I don't want that in the video. It's making a lot of noise. I haven't eaten much today.
Well, you will have a yummy biscuit in a minute.